Why would you go buy a completely separate computer or hardware to spin up a home lab? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you the step-by-step instructions how to spin up a home lab in AWS that you can access from anywhere for free. But first, if this is the first time that we're meeting, welcome to my channel. My name is John Good, and here I get to spread my passion for cybersecurity training, tips and tricks, and career advice to help you go further. Remember to smash the thumbs up to like this video, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss future content, and make sure to leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm. Check out my website at johngood.com for more training without advertisements, resume reviews, career advice, and consulting services. Also, if you're trying to break into cybersecurity, check out my Getting Started page for free resources and a free copy of my ebook on cybersecurity careers. All right, let's get into the video. 10 years ago, if you were trying to build a home lab, the advice that you would get is to either go out and get a really powerful computer or get an actual server. Well, today you still have the option to buy a system with enough power, and I've already made a video on how to select that right computer for you, and you should go watch that if you're interested. But you also have the option to build your lab in the cloud. Using the cloud has a lot of benefits, including free or low cost to operate, more power than you could ever get at home, and access to real commercial software that enterprises actually use. And spinning up the lab in the cloud also allows you to get familiar with the environment, and it gives you those job skills that you want to take with you when you look for a job. I've said it before, but you have to start learning cloud if you really want to be successful in cybersecurity or a technology career in general. Throughout this video, we're going to walk through step by step on how to get an AWS account, create a network, launch virtual machines, and tear it all down. Let's switch over to my screen and get started. Now, we've already talked a little bit about these points that are on the screen, but these are what I really want you to emphasize when thinking about the cloud. So, no need to purchase additional equipment. You don't have to go out and buy one of these computers that are super powerful to run your lab. You can run it all in the cloud. You get to access your lab anywhere. You can remote into your system, into your lab. You don't have to take the hardware with you. That's a huge benefit. Also, access to commercial software. So things that companies are actually using in their real environments. That's really important to build your skill set. And then, of course, building those cloud skills and your experience. Getting familiar with the things that you're actually going to use when you go into a job. On the screen here, you're looking at the overall steps of what we're going to accomplish in this video. Remember, this is with Amazon AWS. So if you're interested in spinning up your home lab in AWS, go ahead and follow along. All right, the first step is we're going to get you an AWS account for free. So with AWS and a lot of these cloud vendors, they have a free tier option where you can get in there and play around and do certain things on a more limited scale, but you get experience using the cloud. So with AWS free tier, you get access to a lot of the free products, which is very important. Again, you get access to real things that you're going to use in the real world, and you get either a trial or 12 months free for that access. Now with Amazon EC2, that's basically like virtual machines. You get 750 hours. That's really huge for practicing and getting used to using AWS and EC2. Also with Amazon S3, that's kind of like a Dropbox or a storage option. You get 5 gigabytes of storage. Let's go ahead and transition and get your AWS free tier account. All right, to sign up for your AWS free tier account, what you need to do is bring in your web browser. And I want you to search for AWS free tier. And then it will be the first link here. Go ahead and click on that. And then you need to create a free account. So this will take you through the process, and just go ahead and fill in all your information, sign up, and then you'll have your free tier account. Now the next step that we're going to do is securing your account with multi-factor authentication, or MFA. So multi-factor authentication is considered a best practice, and basically what it is, if you're not familiar with it, is you provide your username and your password, then you're sent a code that you have to provide, and then you're allowed to log in. It's basically an additional layer of security protection. If you use sites like Facebook or other social media websites, a lot of those use multi-factor authentication. And it really helps something called your root account and protecting that. And with AWS, you have a root account. That's your overall access account, just like on a computer like Linux. And that has all the permissions. So it's very important that you protect this account. So we're going to go ahead and go to Services, and then Security, Identity, and Compliance, and IAM. Now with multi-factor authentication, it's important to use because you can actually prevent people from logging into your account without a specific code that's sent to you. So we're going to go to Users, and then we're going to click the user that we're using, so the account that we're using, and we're going to go to Security Credentials. Then we're going to select Manage Assigned MFA Device. Now, most likely, you're going to use this first option, this virtual MFA device. That would be like an application that you have on your phone, and then we'll just give you a code and you can put that in when you're logging in. I'm not going to go through this because then you could see my authentication information, but this is something that you're definitely going to want to do to protect your account. And the next step that we're going to do is configure a billing alarm. One of the things that people run into as far as issues with cloud is they tend to rack up charges that they aren't expecting because they're not monitoring it. With billing alarms, we can set thresholds. So for instance, if we want to be notified if we spend more than $10 worth of charges, we can set up an alarm and that will email us. So this is a very important step that you want to do right from the get-go so you're not racking up huge charges in your account. Again, you're using a free tier account for this video, but you can select other options and you could rack up charges. Now let's go ahead and configure a billing alarm. This is really important because we can actually set an alarm, and that way if we hit a certain threshold, then we can get notified. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Services, and then we're going to go to Management and Governance, and then we're going to go to CloudWatch. Now in the upper left, we're going to click Billing, and we're going to click Create Alarm. Now for the metric name, you can name this whatever you want. I'm pretty much going to use a lot of the defaults because most of them are acceptable. But down here in the bottom, this conditions part, this is really important. We want to use a static amount. So we're going to say $10. And if we go more than $10, so we're getting charged more than $10, then we want to get alerted. So we're going to type in 10 in this field here. Now you can use greater than or equal to, lower than or equal to, or lower. Just depends on what you're looking for. And then we're going to go ahead and hit next. Okay. So in alarm, we want it to alert us when it is outside of our defined threshold. So when it's more than $10. And we're going to create a new topic here. And we'll go ahead and go with the default. That's fine. And then down here, what you want to do is you want to type in the email address that you want to get alerted to when this actually triggers. So I'm just going to use test@example.com. It's not a real email address or anything like that, but that way we have something in there, and then hit create topic. Right? As you can see, that's the email address it has in there, so it's going to alert that email address when this triggers. And the other actions, we're not going to do any of this stuff. We're just going to leave it as default and hit next. Alarm name, we're going to call this billing alarm. And we will say triggers when threshold exceeds $10. And hit next. All right, it gives us a summary of our created alarm here. And everything looks good. So we'll hit create alarm. Now you want to go through this whole part of the confirmation for that subscription with the email address. But once you have everything set up, then you'll start getting alerts if you go over that amount that you've defined. So again, this is really important with anything in the cloud because you don't want to rack up unnecessary charges because you forgot to shut something down or something happened. Next, we're going to create a non-root user account. Again, this is another best practice. And just like any computer system, you don't want to be running around using that root account for everything because it has all the permissions and it can do anything in your account. So by creating a non-root user account, you're limiting those privileges to least privilege. So you can really be granular with what you allow that account to do. Now we're going to go ahead and create a non-root user. And this is important because, again, we want to limit privileges for user accounts and only allow those user accounts to do specific things. So we're going to go to Services, and then we're going to go to IAM. And then we'll click Users in the upper left here. And we're going to click Add User. All right, username, we're going to type test user. And for this specific user, we're just going to do AWS Management Console Access. For these other ones, for instance, the programmatic access, that can be really important if you want them to access the AWS API, the command line, or the software development kit. But for this purpose, this is going to be fine. We don't have to go super in depth on that stuff. We'll do a custom password. That way we can just assign one. And then user must create a new password at next sign-in. So we're going to give this user this password. They would log in and they'll have to change the password. And it won't let us use the one that we tried. So we'll just go ahead and do auto-generated password. That's fine. We need to assign some permissions to this user. So we're going to click create group. We're going to call this test group. And we're going to select administrator access to make this easy. You can make it a whole lot more granular than this, and you definitely want to, but for this purpose, we're just going to show it this way. So click create group. All right, we'll select next. And we're not going to add any tags in here, but you can use tags to help identify various people or various characteristics of accounts. We'll hit next review. And so what's happening is we have our user, our test user. They're going to be in the test group. And remember, they have administrator access. So we'll hit next to create the user. All right, and the user is successfully created. And then, of course, we want to email the login instructions if this was real life. If we go ahead and go to services and we go back to IAM and we go to users, we now see that we have test user in here, and that was the user that we just created. Now that we've done some of our general work on our AWS account, we're going to create a VPC. Now, what is a VPC? Well, VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud, and essentially that's your network up in the cloud. So when you create subnets and different parts of your network, that's all in your VPC. And this feature is actually free, but everything that you put inside of it, like your EC2 instances, those are obviously going to charge you. But again, VPC itself is free. All right, now we're going to create a VPC or a virtual private cloud. So we're going to go to services, and then we're going to go to networking, content delivery, and VPC. We're going to select the launch VPC wizard. And we're going to do this first option, so VPC with a single public subnet. You do have these other options that might come in handy in different situations, but for our purposes, we're just going to do this first option. So we'll hit select. And I'm just going to leave this CIDR block at the top here as is. VPC name, we'll do test VPC. And our public IPv4 CIDR notation is going to be /24, so 10.0.0, that's something. Availability zone, doesn't really matter for us which one we're going to do. We'll just do this first one, that's fine. And then our subnet name, so public subnet, that's fine as well. So we'll go ahead and click Create VPC. All right, and we are successfully created. So we'll hit OK. There we are. Now we need to create and attach an internet gateway. So you'll see here on the left, we have internet gateways. We'll click that. And we do have one that was created, it looks like. So let's click on that. And let's look at some more of the details. So when we look at the actions, if this was not connected to our actual VPC, we could select attach to VPC, and then that would go ahead and attach it. Since that's already done, we don't have to actually go through this part, but it's good to know what to do in that case. If you didn't have any of them in here, you would do create internet gateway and go through that process. So next, we're going to create a custom route table. So we're going to click route tables on the left here. I'll make this a little bit bigger here. So you can see there's two different route tables currently attached to our VPC. So if we click create route table, we'll give this a name here. VPC, we want to assign it to our test VPC and create. Okay, so now we need to edit our routes. So let's click edit routes. And this first option is saying anything going to that local subnet. That's local, it's not going to go anywhere else outside of there. We'll click add route and we'll select the 0.0.0.0/0. So that is everything that is not this network here. And then where do we want to send it? Well, we want to send it to our internet gateway because we want to send the rest of that traffic out. And we'll select this because that's our internet gateway. And then we'll go ahead and hit save changes. So now we've added that routing rule. So again, anything that is not destined for our internal network, this 10.0.0.0/16, everything else is going to go through our internet gateway. Now we want to click the subnet associations here. and we'll click Edit Subnet Associations. And we're going to click our public subnet here. All right, so now this routing table is associated with our public subnet that we have. All right, now we need to create a security group, which is kind of like a firewall rule. So again, on this same screen here on the left side, we have security groups. And we're going to click Create Security Group. All right, we'll go ahead and give this a name. So security group. Allow SSH is what we're going to say here. We're going to select our VPC. So we're going to select our test VPC. And now we have these inbound rules. So let's hit Add Rule. And so what do we want to allow here? Well, we're going to go find SSH. And then we'll fill in the port and everything like that. And where are we going to allow it to come from? Well, in this specific instance, we're going to do from anywhere. Typically, you want to do my IP, and that will come directly from your IP address. If you're at home or any kind of consumer internet where the IP address will change, then you would have to come back in here and redo this if you were going to log in from a different IP address. If you're at a business, then it's going to be a static IP. But again, just for this situation, we're going to do from anywhere. And we'll give it a description. Right, and then we already have an outbound rule to allow all traffic to anywhere. Right now, we can actually leave that. And we'll hit Create Security Group. I hope that you're enjoying the content in this video so far. If you are, make sure to hit the thumbs up to like this video. And if you think of any questions, let me know down in the comment section below. Also remember that this training and courses can be found on my website without distracting interruptions or advertisements. All right, let's get back to the content. All right, now we're going to launch EC2 instances. Again, those are like the virtual machines. And then we're going to show you how to tear it down or terminate those EC2 instances. Now, EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. And basically, it's putting a virtual machine up into the cloud. You can do all kinds of different operating systems and different storage sizes for their hard drives and whatever you want to do as far as different functions for these servers or systems. It's just like you're using your computer and using your virtual machine software like VMware, but you're just putting it into the cloud. Okay, now we're going to create an EC2 instance. So there's two ways you can do it. Either on the main screen, you'll have this launch a virtual machine, or you can go to Services and then Compute and EC2. So we're going to click Launch Instance, Launch Instance again. And we're going to do this Amazon Linux 2 AMI version. Hit Select. T2 microservice. That's the instance type we're going to do. And again, that's a free tier eligible option. We'll hit Next to configure more details. We're just going to leave this one in the default VPC. If you have your own VPC, you can put it in there as well. But for this, we're just going to put this directly into our default VPC. And then if we look at the rest of the options here, everything else looks good. So we'll hit Next to add storage. We're going to leave this as the default storage option. Next, to add tags, we're not going to add any tags. We're just going to leave it as is. Go next to security groups. And we could select an existing security group if we had one. So we could go through here and pick one. We're just going to create a new one here. So we're going to actually just allow all traffic here. And that way any traffic can come to this actual EC2 instance. We're going to get rid of this soon. So this is not a great practice to do if you're going to leave your EC2 instance up because it's on the internet facing. A lot of people can hit this system. So you got to be really careful with this. These are kind of like firewall rules. And the source, we're going to allow it to come from anywhere. Same thing. This is not a great practice if you're going to leave it up, but we're just doing this for illustration purposes. So review and launch. Everything looks good, and we'll hit launch. Now for this, if you don't already have a key pair, you need to create one so that you can connect in with something like SSH. So to do that, you do create a new pair. The key pair name, we'll do test user 2, and we'll download that key pair. Now we're going to do launch instances. Right, now we'll go to View Instances, and we'll go ahead and give this a few minutes to boot up. So now that our EC2 instance is running, we need to go ahead and click on it here, and we need to connect to it. So we're going to use an application called Putty, and specifically Putty Key Generator first, because we're going to take that key that we downloaded earlier, that access key, and we're going to convert it into a format that Putty can use. So we're going to go to Conversions, Import Key, and we did testuser2.pym is the file that we saved earlier. So we'll hit Open, and we'll click Save Private Key. We'll select Yes, and testuser2.ppk. And hit Save. Okay, so now we're going to actually SSH into the system. So we need to actually copy the IP address. So we'll click right here on this little square. We'll bring in Putty, and we'll go ahead and put that into the host name. We'll then go down to SSH. We'll expand this out and go to Auth. And then we need to browse for that private key that we just converted. So here it is, testuser2. And then we will hit Open. Now you're going to get a login screen that looks like this, asking for the username. So now what we need to do, because you might not know the username, is we will hit Connect on the EC2 console. And this gives us the username of EC2-user. If we bring this back over here and we type EC2-user, that's going to allow us to actually log into the system. So congratulations, you've just spun up a Linux EC2 instance. When you're done using your EC2 instance, you want to go ahead and shut it down. So we're going to go ahead and click on it again. And Instant State, we actually want to just terminate this because we're done using it. But you could do stop or reboot, all those different options from here. So I'm going to do terminate, and I'm going to go ahead and terminate it. And once this is done, similar to this second one here, it'll say terminated, and it will no longer be in your connection in your profile. All right, now that we've spun up a Linux EC2 instance, we're also going to spin up a Windows EC2 instance because your lab environment is going to have both operating systems. So just like with Linux, on the main screen here, we have Launch a Virtual Machine with EC2, or we can also go to Services and then Compute and EC2. And we'll select Launch Instance and Launch Instance again. And we're going to select Microsoft Windows Server 2019 Base. So we'll select that, and again, that's free tier eligible. And just like before, we're going to select the free tier eligible T2 Micro, and we'll select Next Configure Instance Details. And just like before, we're going to use all of the default options here. We're not going to change anything. But again, if you had a different VPC that you were going to put this into, you could select it here and select all your different options that you need. But again, we're just going to hit Next, Add Storage. And same thing here. We're going to leave it as the default. So we'll hit Next, Add Tags. We're not going to add any tags here. We're going to select Next, Configure Security Group. Now for Windows, we're going to connect using RDP. If you remember back to Linux, we used SSH, and that's the difference in the operating systems and how you would connect. But with this particular one, it defaults to adding RDP, and we're going to allow the source to be anywhere. So that's going to be any IP address. Now, normally that's not a good practice, and you'll want to be more granular and use my IP. But for this video, because we're going to shut it down after, this is going to be okay. And then as far as security groups, we're just going to create a new security group here. So we'll hit Review and Launch. All right, so we're going to go ahead and review the details for our EC2 instance, and everything looks good. So we'll hit Launch. And in this section, again, if you already had a key pair that you were going to use, you could go ahead and select that. But for this, we're going to create a brand new one. So we're going to call this Test User 3, and we're going to download the key pair. All right, and we'll hit Launch Instance. All right, so that's being launched. So we're going to view instances. And we'll give this a few minutes here to go ahead and spin up. All right, now that our EC2 instance is running, we're going to go ahead and select it. We're going to hit Connect. And we're going to hit RDP Client. Now, what you need to do is you need to download this remote desktop file. So click Download. And then I want you to bring in your remote desktop connection. So you can do this a couple different ways. If you're on a Windows computer, you can go to Start, Run, and type mstsc, and that will open it up. Or if you're on a Mac computer, you need to download the remote desktop application from Microsoft from the store. So since I'm on a Windows computer, I already have it open here. And I'm going to hit Show Options. And under the connection settings, I'm going to hit Open. And then I'm going to go to Downloads because that's where it's at. And we're going to select that file that we just downloaded. So we'll hit Open. Right, and that's going to automatically fill in our username. Now we need to get the password. So you'll see back here on the website this get password. So we'll hit that, and you need to browse to your key pair that we created earlier, or if you use an existing one. So we'll hit Browse. Again, we'll go to the Downloads folder, and then we will hit testuser3.pem and hit Open. All right, and now we need to decrypt the password. All right, and then there is our password. So we'll go ahead and we'll copy this by hitting the box here. And then we'll go back to our remote desktop connection and we'll hit connect. And we do want to connect to this, so we'll hit connect again. And we're going to go ahead and put that password into here. And then hit OK. And we do trust this connection, so we can accept the certificate. We'll hit yes. All right, and that's going to open up our EC2 instance of Microsoft Server 2019. Now that it's running, if we go to the Start menu here and we type winver and hit Enter, we can see we're running Server 2019. We have successfully launched an EC2 instance of the Windows operating system now in your Amazon AWS account. So we'll hit OK here. And we'll go ahead and disconnect from this. And we'll cancel on that. And just like we did with the Linux operating system EC2 instance, we'll go ahead and select the Windows one. And we'll hit Instant State. And we're going to terminate this instance. And hit Terminate. And again, just like with the Linux EC2 instance, once this is shut down and completely terminated, it'll be removed from your account and you'll no longer be charged any charges. Question of the day. Are you planning on using physical gear or the cloud for your lab? If you're going to use the cloud, are you going to use AWS? Let me know down in the comment section below. In this video, I showed you step-by-step how to spin up a home lab in AWS that you can access from anywhere for free. If you still prefer to have a physical dedicated system, then make sure to check out my video on picking out the right computer. But remember, the cloud is a very important skill that you need to start developing for today and into the future. So don't neglect it. As always, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my website at johngood.com for more training without advertisements, resume reviews, career advice, and consulting services. And I'll see you next time.